There's some downside risk from an SEC investigation. I want you to talk to me about how big that downside risk is relative to the upside risk that this company could well be taken private.
Right. I think the downside risk to the SEC investigation is not significant. I mean, think about it. What are they going to do? They're going to hit him with a fine, just financially, hit him with a fine. But I think from a company perspective, it could be significant if, worst case scenario, they determine he broke significant laws and force him essentially out of the company, and or the board takes action to do so. I don't know if either of those things happen, but I think what's most important today is he is specifically stating that funding is not secured, and I think that's a big deal.
It is a big deal, and it's a serious point. But another serious point as well, Gordon, that I do think we have to actually explore now with some seriousness is the potential for this company to be taken private. And if it is, do you sense that we're going to be well north of 360 if it is?
Yeah, I don't think so, because I think this would take months to do, and I think as the discovery process unfolds and guys get into the details of Tesla's financials, I think they're going to be very concerned. When I say the guys, whoever's potentially thinking about taking them private. And one thing to add is just last night, Reuters reported, and they have two sources that said that the Saudi wealth fund has no interest in taking Tesla private. Clearly, Bloomberg reported, I think with one source, the opposite of that. But I think the problem is, if you go back to the fundamentals are bad. And if you look at what's happening with all these Tesla cars that are accumulating and building up at their Lathrop facility, where you have, it seems like maybe hundreds or thousands of Model 3s sitting in the sun in other facilities. You know, if they have a backlog of 420,000 cars, why aren't those cars being delivered? Why are these cars sitting at facilities and not being delivered? If you look at the competition in Europe, it looks like their sales are dropping significantly in a number of European countries. Yeah. Keep in mind, competition's coming in, and there's two lawsuits, one alleging fraud at Solar City and another alleging fraud at Tesla with respect to parts that they were counting as going towards sales. So I think there's a lot of hair here, and I think that to assume that they're just going to go private with all this out there, I think may be a bit optimistic.
Gordon, just to give some more clarity over that contradictory reporting, it wasn't a single source. It was multiple people with knowledge of the funds who have told Bloomberg News through Sunday that the Saudis' public investment fund is working to be part of any investor pool that emerges to take Tesla private. And on top of that reporting by my colleagues here at Bloomberg, Gordon, the words of Elon Musk also suggesting that the Saudi wealth fund is interested. So it's not just anonymity anymore in terms of anonymous sourcing. It's actually Elon Musk himself, the CEO, talking about the Saudi wealth fund being interested.
Right, but I think it's important. If the source is Elon Musk, I think that's one thing. If the source is people at the Saudi wealth fund, I think that's something else. It's clear that Elon Musk believes that the Saudi wealth fund is interested in taking him private. So if the source is Elon Musk, again, not saying it's sure not true, but just I think that that's different than the source being someone actually at the Saudi wealth fund. And I think not trying to go against Bloomberg sources. It's just this is what we read in the news. We read that the source at Bloomberg may have been primarily Elon Musk, whereas the source at Reuters may have primarily been someone at the Saudi wealth fund.
Well, I can't clarify who the sourcing actually is, and to be honest with you, pushing this story forward just a little bit, Gordon, I think what's interested here, just in terms of whether the Saudis would actually execute on a deal, SoftBank didn't. And the interesting thing as to why SoftBank didn't was because Musk wanted disproportionate control. You know the interest between SoftBank and the fund there and the Saudis, and I'm just wondering if SoftBank didn't pull the trigger on investing because of disproportionate control of Elon Musk, why would the Saudis, and is that going to be an issue, Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something we've heard in the news, and that's definitely something that a lot of the bearish investors, I guess you can put us in that camp, have alluded to. So typically the Saudi wealth fund does get approval, not approval, but the blessing, if you will, from SoftBank, and it clearly seems like that's not what they're going to get this time. So, again, I go back to the Lehman example, and not to say that Tesla's imminently going under, but there's a lot of things out there that are very questionable with respect to debt due, et cetera. And, this, in our view, is very reminiscent of that. And as a shareholder, if this thing doesn't close for 6 months and you potentially have an SEC action on Elon Musk's tweets a couple of days back, the question is, does that shake confidence? One big shareholder we know, Bally Gifford, has asked him to stop tweeting, and he sent out the nuclear tweet last week. So, the question remains, do the shareholders stick with the company?